Hey folks, in this video I'm going to talk about marketing mix models. We're going to talk a little bit about what they are, why use them, and how you can leverage AI and just a little bit of coding to build your own custom marketing mix model. So we're going to start off with a report here. I'm going to walk you through some of the data. We're going to look at what we've accomplished, and then we're going to sort of walk back from there and talk about how we built this and how you can go ahead and do it yourself. First off, what is a marketing mix model? A marketing mix model is a sort of machine learning or data science model that you can build to understand how spend by channel or how certain events, for example, impact sales. Now, if you are a 100% internet-based company, I don't know, let's say a SaaS company, and all the ads that you do are Google ads and maybe LinkedIn ads and that kind of stuff, the reality is you can probably just use attribution to understand where users are coming from. But if you are running some ads in different places where it's harder to track the attribution, say TV or radio, or maybe you're running some ads on bus stops and billboards and so on and so forth, that can be really hard to understand how a dollar spent there is impacting your sales. And that's where a marketing mix model comes into play. There are tools out there that you can sort of like take your data and plug into to get a model. But the problem is you have to sort of finagle your data to fit into their model, and it's also not really customizable. So if you are a little bit comfortable with some coding and you're able to leverage AI, you can do some really powerful things here on your own. So let's dive into it. Let's talk about what we've built, and then we'll get into how we did this. Here we have a report. I just built this in Fabi just to kind of illustrate the point. Technically, you don't need a report, but this just makes it easier to consume. So this is where we're going to start off. And you can see here I have some sales data. This is 100% synthetic sales data. I tried to make it look, sales and spend data, I tried to make it look roughly realistic, but obviously I just recommend using your own data. You can format it different ways, but the way I have it formatted here is I've looked at sales by week. And by the way, the more data you have, generally the better up to a certain point. And I also have the spend here. So social media spend, TV spend, radio, Google ads, Facebook. And we also have this like promo run in holidays. So like, was that a holiday week? And in this case, like major US holidays. And did we run a promo on that week? To understand the data here, let's look at a quick chart that I had AI built for me. So I can see the gray bars are the sales for, actually, I also should mention here, I'm sort of making an assumption in this whole video that we are working off a single product. If you have multiple products, maybe a little bit harder to disambiguate the spend, how spend is impacting. So say, for example, you're just like running a general brand campaign on, let's take the bus stops again as an example. It may be hard to understand how the spend is impacting certain product sales, but that's also where marketing mix models can become really powerful because it can kind of help like disambiguate those signals. But here I'm working on kind of the assumption that we have a single product. So going back to this, we have the sales for that product. It's the gray bar. We can see there's kind of like a seasonal pattern. And then we have the spend as the line charts here by channel. And then we have the promo weeks or holiday weeks denoted with these little stars and diamonds up here. Now, before we get into the model, I did some other things here to kind of help you understand like what a marketing mix model can really do for you. So once you generate this model, you can actually ask it to explain the importance of certain features on your sales. So here, for example, we said, show us the feature importance by channel and whether or not there's a holiday or promo on sales. You can see here, for example, TV has a disproportionate impact. And then it's, trailing with social media, radio, and then holiday, whether there's a holiday that week or a promo, has very little impact actually. And again, this is all synthetic data, so the reality may be a little bit different. Promos probably have a bigger impact, but that all obviously depends on your business and your product. The other thing I did here for fun, I'm not going to linger too much on this one here on this video because there's actually like it can get like a little bit more complicated, but I just did this kind of for fun to show you what you could do and can do with a marketing mix model. And what I asked the AI to do here is forecast the sales based on incremental spend or decrease in spend that deviates from the average spend by channel. So like if you increase the spend by X percent, say for example 2% here for TV, how does that impact your sales, and so on and so forth. The reality is, just again, it's all synthetic data. So Google Ads, if you increase spend to a certain point, probably doesn't go down. It probably just plateaus. But you can start doing some really cool and fun things here. We can start seeing how different spending in different channels or taking different actions will impact your sales. Now, maybe the more concrete sort of output of all of this is ultimately you want to forecast sales. So it's like, okay, you want to understand how spending a dollar in a certain channel will, or where can you maximize your dollar. But then the question becomes like, well, what if I spend $100,000 on TV and $50,000 on radio? How does that impact your sales, or what would your sales potentially be? You can start doing that now with a marketing mix model. So you can say, well, okay, let's decrease TV spend down to 0. Let's keep radio to 50 and social media maybe to, let's shift our spend to social media here. And then we're going to hit submit. Okay, there we go. It obviously decreases your predicted sales. Let's bring this back up to 50,000 here. That goes up drastically. Great. So let's now talk about how we built this. I'm going to go here to the underlying SmartBook. This is a Fabi environment. It's where you can do your full analysis. It's all AI enabled as well. I'm doing this in Fabi just because it's really easy to get started. You can upload a file, you can run SQL, you can run Python. Really, really powerful. It has AI built into it. If you're totally comfortable with say Python and running your own in your own environment and locally, you can probably just do this on your IDE as well. So jumping back into it here, I just imported some data, the synthetic data that we've generated, and I've created the chart here. So this is all AI generated chart. I didn't build this myself, but you can see it's just using Plotly. So maybe just to illustrate what you can do here. Actually, I should mention that this data here is stored as a Python data frame, or effectively a table called data frame 1. So I can say, using data frame 1, please create a bar chart for sales and show spend by channel as lines on the same chart. So here you'll see that the AI is actually going to understand the context of the SmartBook that we have on the left. It's going to, it's actually telling me it already exists. Okay, great. Just verifying it since it saw that I have already created that in the sales data chart for me, which it's correct. And if I preview this, you'll see that it's okay. It's doing the same thing. It just removed the little annotations here for holiday and promos because I didn't ask for that. So let's skip down here and let's talk about let's get into the meat of it. So let's talk about the models. There's all sorts of models that you can use. This is where even though you can probably build something like this fairly quickly yourself, you probably do want to work with a data scientist that understands a little bit about what's actually going on behind the model. So when you're doing a marketing mix model, you could use all sorts of things like a linear regression. You could use a random forest. In this case, I'm using GXBoost. And there are nuances to each, and there are like situations where you want to use one or the other. So like depending on, are your fields categorical? Is it all number fields? Is it a Boolean field, a true, false? Do you expect generally some relationship between your different features, or do you expect them to be mostly independent? All of that really can and should inform like which model you end up using. I'm not going to dive into that right now. Just know that like that is important, and that's also a great thing to use the AI for. So if you do have some data and you're kind of like wondering which model to use, if you can kind of describe the situation and how your features, so aka your spend by channel and events, relate to each other, the AI may be able to recommend a better model for you. And the AI also makes it really easy for you to experiment with different models to kind of see the output. So here again, I can say, use. So again, I'm using GXBoost here, and I'll talk about that in a second. But I can just show you how you can generate a model very quickly. I can say use a linear regression model to create a marketing mix model for data frame 1 and tell me which features are the most important. So the AI kind of like unlike what you would be able to do before in the past without AI, just lets you like crank through a bunch of different scenarios very quickly. Here you can see it's using a linear model. It's verifying the code. Let me just, okay, let's preview this real quick. Okay, there we go. So it's giving me a different output. It's giving me saying that, radio and media or TV is maybe a lot less important than the other ones. Still saying holiday and promo are less important, but you get the idea. So just play around with different models and make sure you kind of like understand your data and each model. So here what the AI did for me is it prepared a data set. It's splitting the data into training and test data. So training data saying, let's go and pull out some data. We're going to train the model on that, and we're going to run the model against the test data and see how accurate it is. And I also here added some regularization. So I said, you can ignore this if you want and sort of like say, okay, let the model sort of figure out the best parameters. But if, again, going back to like the data science comments, like if you kind of know what you're doing or looking for, you may want to play around with this. This is where you may, or you could, I should say, reduce the risk of overfitting, which means like building a model that's like way too specific to your training data. Because like what you want is a model, it's kind of like a Goldilocks, where you want a model that's like sufficiently trained on your data at the right level of detail to be accurate, but you don't want it like so trained like every specific little nuance in your data that it's going to, like, for example, create a different forecast for every single week based on just that unique week. So that's what I have here, and I set the max depth in the XGBoost model. And then we are just simply creating a plot, and you can see here really the important part is that it's creating this variable called importance based on the model. And the model here was fit using the training set, the X train, the Y train. So X train is the features, it's the spend. The Y is, let me just double check what I'm saying here. I'm forgetting a little bit. X train, X, that's right, yeah. So those are your features. This is your sales data, and then it will create that importance, and that's what it's returning here. Now what I'm doing down here is I've asked the AI to then use that model. So you'll see it's, let's go here. Let's focus on this predict sales. So it is the AI simply down here. Okay, here we go. And the prediction, so this is just a function that it created. And I asked it to let me pass a bunch of different variables. So I'll talk about these parameters in a second. But basically what I said is let me specify a certain amount spend by channel and then predict the dollar sales from there. And so that's what this is just letting me sort of input the values. Again, I'll talk about the variables in a second. But then this model, all it's doing really is it's using the model that we've created above in the SmartBook to predict based on the input data, which is the social media spend, TV, and all that kind of stuff, which comes from here. And just, this is a Fabi specific thing. I just want to create this like dynamic report where you could go and change the values here. Again, I want to be able to say, what if I change the TV spend to $100,000 and you submit that, how does that impact sales? The way I did that was instead of, let's go down here, I could literally just say I could replace this of like $50,000. That's what the AI had originally written for me. If I run that, will change it. You'll see here. Okay. But I wanted to make that dynamic, so I created these variables here with these inputs up here, and I called this TV spend. And the way you do that is you simply go here, insert new cell, filter input. I created a number. I called this TV spend. Then you can add a description and default value, and that's what this little element is, and that gets passed down below to this cell. And then I'll skip over this one here, but again, I asked the AI to help me understand like how different spend by channel will impact sales. But that's the gist of it. So really, the XGBoost and that kind of stuff may feel intimidating. It's really not. Again, the biggest thing is like understand your data, have some hypotheses about how different factors and different features, if you will, may impact sales. Ask the AI to kind of guide you, and then you can build a model like this very quickly. And yeah. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to drop them down below. I will also link a blog post with some detailed notes and some example code. Thanks for listening.